guys,
Hello.
welcome to another episode of The Parried Life. I'm Mac,
And I'm Talia Perry.
and I believe this is episode 5, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so today I think we'll go ahead and kick things off with a check on my face with my beard. And I know that sounds weird, but if you watch the last episode, you'll understand why. I shaved my beard off, and my wife had no idea that I was going to do so. So she was, understandably, she freaked out a little bit, and I think she was a little upset with me, but it's starting to grow back.
Okay, so disclaimer, it is my husband's face. He can do whatever it is that he wants to do with his face or his body. But a heads up would have been nice, especially because we have winter and all she knows is daddy with a mustache and a beard. So if she would have freaked out, then that would have been terrible. Like, I would have had to, pick up the pieces a little bit.
I guess it's, it wasn't a big deal to me because I just kind of felt like I needed a fresh start with my facial hair.
That's fine.
And it kind of, the sides grow a little patchy from time to time, so I had to just make a decision and get rid of it so it can, grow anew. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and get into the content of the episode. And this week's topic centers around COVID and how my wife and I have managed to, stay together.
Dang.
How
the
we
horse was not on the table, y'all.
I'm just kidding. It's just about how we've managed to kind of, make the best of times that we've been forced to spend more time than we usually, really have ever had to do.
Yeah.
So, being married and all, it's great to spend time with your spouse, but we'd all be remiss if we didn't say and understand that everybody needs their, me time, their alone time. So that's what today's episode is about. And we'll also bring in some comments from the poll that was put out, just different people, what their opinion was and how they have managed to, deal with these times as well. But with that being said, I'll go ahead and let my wife go first.
Hey, y'all. For us, my due date with winter was originally March 12th. And I had went to the doctor's routine, appointment for me. And pretty much on February 28th, I was told that we were going to go ahead and have a baby. So she came via emergency C-section, which we'll get into, Winter's birth story and things like that in a later episode. And so she was born 2 weeks before her due date. And now looking back, I'm actually glad that she was born 2 weeks early. In the moment, I was glad that she was born 2 weeks early because I was ready to meet my baby. But yeah, so again, I had her via C-section. We were in the hospital for about 4 days. We came home. My husband went back to work after a couple of days where we were home, and he was literally at work for one week. And I don't even think it was a full week. And then all of a sudden the world completely shuts down due to COVID. The same day that the world shut down was the same day that my driving restriction was lifted, but I had nowhere to go. So that was extremely frustrating for me because, we're both adjusting to being parents, and it's in the middle of a pandemic. At that time, it was the beginning of a pandemic. We didn't know how long this was going to last. We were hoping that it would have been over by now, but as you guys can see, we are 7 months into our global pandemic. So those 2 weeks before was just kind of okay, I was feeling like I was ready to get out, but then it never even happened. I didn't even get the opportunity. And then I was kind of uncomfortable with taking Winter anywhere other than to my grandparents' house. And literally for months we had all come over to my grandparents' house every single day just to kind of get out of the house. But 2 weeks into the pandemic was my husband's birthday. And that was really hard to finesse for me because I'm like, okay, we have a 1 month old at the time, and I'm like, it's my husband's birthday. We're stuck in the house. Like, how do I make this special for him? And I ordered some Outback Steakhouse and had it delivered, and I tried to just make a night of it. My mother was able to watch Winter for a little bit because she was one of those people that we were around 24/7. So it's not like she was just coming and going as she pleased. And so, um, so yeah, my mom was watching her. We had dinner at home. We watched a movie, and then that was great. And then I want to say that weekend, we had cake and ice cream at my grandparents' house, just a small group of us. And I got my husband this amazing Iron Man cake.
Beautiful.
Amazing. Our cake lady plays no games.
Probably the best cake that I've ever seen before. So
yeah, it was dope. I wonder if we can show them,
Yeah, I'll figure something out.
Yeah, but it was. We'll put it up on the Period Life page for you guys to see. But it was an amazing cake, and I think that my husband had a great time.
Yeah, I did.
And enjoyed his birthday. So that's how we finesse a birthday during a pandemic. But when we're getting into the root of it, we are home with each other 25/8. And our daughter. And that can be extremely overwhelming because I had to go back to work. I teach. And so I now was adjusting to life as a new mom and then being a teacher virtually all at one time. And it still is extremely overwhelming. Like, I'm a full-time teacher and a full-time stay-at-home mom. And it is exhausting, and there's so many schedules that come into play with my husband's schedule, Winter's schedule, my pumping schedule, my work schedule. And sometimes because of that, we find ourselves having the occasional intense fellowship or coming to Jesus meetings. And due to COVID, I feel like we've been having more intense fellowship than we ever have before. I think that you could probably say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that could be really tricky to navigate sometimes. It's like we're always going back and forth about the same thing, and it's usually me time, right?
I don't think that's the only thing. But
well, I mean, it's not the only thing, but
yeah.
That is one of the big things that we tend to go back and forth about. Because, I need some time. He needs his time. So that's been really, really hard to navigate. I mean, what else do you think?
Well, the me time thing is definitely one big thing. And that, not even just in a marriage and a relationship. If you live together, and you're forced to be around each other 24/7, it's not too hard to see that could sometimes pose issues with being able to do things that you want to do, on your own time. And, when you're in a marriage, that kind of sometimes goes out the window already. But whenever you, especially when you have children, but when you are forced into quarantine or you have a pandemic like this, it just kind of opens the floodgates in regards to issues like that being a frequent occurrence. So I think the big thing between the both of us is that since we both work at home during this time, and we also have a child who we're not comfortable with yet putting in any type of a daycare facility or, getting a babysitter around her, we have to be at home 24/7 or 25/8, I think is what my wife said. on a day-to-day basis. And what that means for me is that I get up, I get showered, dressed, whatever, and then go straight into work. Well, I'm not going anywhere, but I'm having to log on at 8 o'clock, in the morning. And my wife, she is getting up at the same time, getting our daughter dressed, getting her ready for the day, making sure she's fed, and then she's having to do work herself at the same time. So the nature of our jobs are a little bit different, so I can't help out as much as I would like to. I step in when I can, but I recognize that that's not as often as, unfortunately, as I would like it to be. And sometimes that puts my wife in a tough spot. But honestly, that, it's kind of just been, it's one of those it is what it is scenarios at this point in time until things kind of change. And that's, definitely caused, not friction, but I would say it's definitely made things a little bit difficult between the two of us, because I want to make sure that my wife isn't struggling throughout the day to make sure she's getting her work done, as well as making sure that our daughter is taken care of. But it's difficult to do that and still have my own personal time and feel like I'm not overextending myself. But these are just some of the sacrifices, I guess, that we have to make as, as spouses to each other. And I know it's a work in progress for us, as I'm sure it is for many of you out there. But we're doing our best to make sure that we're not, overstepping our boundaries or getting on each other's nerves too much. But I mean, that's just the
Because
nature.
nerves have been plucked.
That's just the nature of it right now. It's just like, it's just petty stuff a lot of the time. It's like a lot of disagreements we have, or intense fellowship, as my wife so eloquently puts it. It's over a lot of petty things that can't, they're not can't, things that really could be prevented or solved with a quick conversation or, an action. So that's just the nature of how it's been for us right now. And that's the frustrating part. It's like you don't really want to have a disagreement or argue or fellowship or anything like that, but it happens.
Yeah.
And you have to walk back, and it's just sometimes it's awkward, sometimes it really gets under your skin, but for better or worse, you got to figure out a way to get past it. And,
Right.
so for us, I think, my wife, she already described, different things that she's, tried to do to make things seem normal, like the whole birthday experience with Outback and the cake that I got. That was awesome. But between us, we've probably only been out on a date once since this whole pandemic started 7 months ago, and that was just last month. Well, actually, this month.
Yeah.
It was just a few weeks ago for our anniversary. And that even felt a little strange because
Yeah, I was having like I had a little bit of anxiety, with, being, because we went to a restaurant and, they're just like, when you get to your table, you can take your mask off, obviously, to eat, drink, be merry.
Yeah.
And I was like saying to my husband, I was like, I'm really uncomfortable. Like, I never thought that it would get to that point, but I'm at that point where I was uncomfortable. Even we took a trip. When did we go to Ohio?
It was in June, I believe. wasn't it?
Yeah. We went to Ohio in June to go pick up my bonus daughter, and when we were there, we felt uncomfortable. I know I did, because we saw a lot of people without masks, like going into establishments and stuff like that. Here in Maryland, it was mandated that you wear a mask anytime you walk outside your house. It wasn't like that in other states. So when we got there, like, I was having a little bit of anxiety, and my mask was on and other people's mask was off. And, we made sure not to go in and out of places too much, but it's just like,
Yeah.
it is too much.
That was a whole ordeal. We went to go pick up my daughter, and we got her back here, and the difference between Ohio and Maryland in regards to quarantine, I guess whatever you want to term it as, it just seemed different. People were more laid back with mask wearing, and as opposed to here where we're living, But I think it just goes to show that not everybody quite is on the same page when it comes to that. Not everybody took it as serious at that point in time still, as we have been.
Yeah.
But
We've been really taking it seriously because obviously we had winter and then we had, Kylan. We are trying to make sure we protect ourselves, we protect our children, and we protect our loved ones. So we weren't playing any games with COVID at all, which is why we did stay in the house and why we do still stay in the house as much as we possibly can. We do break out a little bit more often now, but in short spurts of time. But due to COVID, we've been out taking walks more often just to get a breath of fresh air because just being in the house sometimes can just be too much. Don't let a rainy week come around because then we just all miserable. But what I can say is if you've been stuck in the house with your spouse, your significant other, whatever, you can still think of things to do to date, to kind of change things, shake things up. If you have children there, you can always wait till they go to bed maybe, or if you have somewhere for them to go where they are safe, then that is an option, too. But continue to date your spouse, continue to date your significant other. You can do a sip and paint at home. You can do a new recipe together. There's still things that you can do. We even went on a picnic, things like that. There's still things that you can do. Ideas are on Pinterest, y'all.
Yeah, I'm not too big on Pinterest, but my wife definitely is on there trying to find new things for us to do.
Because I've been going crazy.
At the end of the day for us, it's just like we have to try and brainstorm or get creative with what we do. The world is opening up a little bit more, but, there might be another fluctuation with fall, winter coming up, but it just gets down to, getting creative about how you can make your relationship not seem dull in this, this point in time.
So obviously we have experienced firsthand that spending this amount of time together for such a long stretch of time can bring up a little bit more intense fellowship, than how it usually would be before the pandemic, because, you don't have that time to break away, the conversations change, since we're not at work. You can't say, oh, how was work today and what happened and, nothing like that. So conversations do change, as well. But what I can say is if you find that you and your partner are butting heads a lot more, just have a little bit of patience. That's what we're trying to, practice with each other, is to have a little bit more patience, because these are circumstances of which we cannot change, and so we have to we just have to really just be patient. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. There's a lot of things, like you said, sometimes they're petty arguments or whatever, and sometimes we just have to let those petty things just roll off a little bit. So if you need a minute to just kind of walk away, because my husband is a very much, let's talk about it, let's fix it right here, right now. And I'm okay, I need a minute. Let me process my thoughts, let me talk to myself first, and then we come talk to you, and we'll figure this out together. There's nothing wrong in that, just let your partner know. But this is what works for us. Do what works for you and your spouse, your relationship, marriage, whatever. But those are some things that we're working on. So we're working on that, and we're also working on trying to do more things together, at home. Since we don't go out on dates, more frequently. Fall is our favorite season, so we'll probably be doing a lot more things and being out and about a little bit more, now than before. But now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my husband because he does have got some Facebook stuff or...
I guess to put it like that.
I mean, he put the poll out about COVID, and so...
yeah, I'll just get into that. But yes, thank you, babe. So what we like to do whenever we, record and everything is a couple days before is just kind of put something out on Facebook, on our page, The Perry Life, and, kind of see what other people's opinions are, what they have to say, if they have any, advice, things like that. But this week, sad to read some of the things that were said, not because they were, directed towards us or anything, but it's just some of the comments were sad. So I'll go ahead and get into that. Obviously, since both of us are here, neither of us have had to deal with COVID in really any capacity.
And we pray that we don't have to.
We haven't had to deal with death in our immediate family, and obviously, since we're right here, neither of us has passed away, and God forbid anything like that ever happen. But the reality is that many people out there have, and that's very heartbreaking. And it's just my heart goes out to anybody who's had to deal with the loss of a spouse or significant other, or family member, or friend, anybody that they're close to. Some of the things that I saw on there range from my husband passed away, and people don't take this serious enough, and that was just one. So death is obviously the biggest one. Another was divorce, and that's sad too, because like I said at the beginning of this episode, we've been forced to spend a lot more time together than we would have liked. And I know that sounds harsh, but
it's the truth, y'all.
People need me time. People need space, and whether you live in a small area or a large home, it's just sometimes you just have to be able to have your own time to do things that you would like to do, and that hasn't been the case for a lot of people, probably most people these days. But divorce has been another big one. Somebody commented that their husband had just they drifted apart from them, and you never want to hear about that. You never want to see that. Even you're forced to spend so much time together, and you're still drifting apart. It's like, man, some people really, really have it bad, and I'm just so thankful that my wife and I haven't experienced those types of feelings towards each other.
I think because also we've been through so much.
Yeah,
before we got married, and and early on in our marriage, it's gonna take a lot to break us.
We've been through a lot together, and I know that kind of has played a big role in us going through this pandemic. But I just, again, my heart goes out to those people who've had to experience, either one of those two things, death or divorce.
Or separation.
Separation between their spouse or significant other. So those are two things, and another is that it's actually, on a positive note, it's actually forced people, since it has forced people to spend so much time together, it's brought them closer together. I'm willing to bet that there is probably more of the latter than that, but that's still positive. When I say that, I mean that there's probably more bad than good, unfortunately, in this scenario.
Well,
depending upon how you look at it.
Yeah.
But just from what I've seen, there's a lot of negativity out there as well, and it's important. I'm usually a positive person.
Can I share some positivity about this whole COVID experience?
Sure.
Okay, so some things that obviously we talked about. We're talking about how COVID has impacted us. Obviously, we know that because we're together so long, that can create some a little bit of tension. Which it is what it is. We talk about it, we get over it, we move on. I still love him. The end. juggling schedules. We're blessed to still be able to work. We're blessed to have jobs. We're blessed to be able to stay at home with our daughter and not have to shell out all that money on childcare. That's been a plus for us. And also it's been a plus for us too, because we've been able to be with our daughter every single day and watch her hit every single milestone for the past 7 months. And, I'm so glad, for that, after experiencing what we have experienced with, with our first child together. So that is a blessing. Also too, my husband is in school, so it's a little bit, I would say it's a little bit easier to juggle, even though my husband, he does not like, school online. He'd rather be in the classroom, but it's a blessing that, he's still able to accomplish what he wants to accomplish, while all of this is happening. I'm going back to school, as well. We've launched this podcast and, our YouTube channel through COVID, and I've learned some new recipes.
Yeah.
I've been cooking, y'all. I cooked before, but, meals just get kind of old and feel repetitive. So, like, I've kind of refreshed, that whole thing. So, so we've been trying, new things, so those are all the positives that have come out of COVID, I think, for us at this point.
Yeah. So, I don't want to say that it hasn't been positive, some things, because it definitely has. My wife just went down a laundry list of positives that we've, been able to do and to achieve, rather. But I just want everybody out there to know that it doesn't have to all be negative, because I saw a lot of negative stuff, from what I put out there. But for us, it's just been, there's a lot that has come up and a lot that has changed in this short period of time. But we're kind of rolling with the punches here, just like a lot of other people out there are. And we're trying to have a positive outlook on these times. It's not going to last forever. The pandemic, we've had other pandemics in the past. This is probably the most serious one that we've had in our lifetime. Mm-hmm. But we are definitely going to keep moving forward and keep trying to keep things fresh between us and make sure that we make time for each other, make sure that we're trying to still make time for ourselves. So whether that means one or either, or both of us have to come up with new ways to, have date nights in the house, whether that be on Pinterest or not, whether that means...
Don't be hating on Pinterest.
Oh, I know. Whether that means you have to, ask your friends, family, what they're doing to, pass the time by, because everybody, believe it or not, is dealing with this. So,
and it's going to be a whole nother ball game once, like, we're in, like, the dead middle of winter. If winter is going to be as bad as people are saying that it is, then the world gonna close again, and I'm not saying that to be like, whatever, but it's just the reality of the situation. So just go ahead and mentally start preparing yourself if that is the case, because I know that we have to.
Yeah. With that being said, I think we'll go ahead and bring today's episode to a close. As always, thank you for viewing.
Thanks,
like, subscribe, share on whatever platform.
Yes.
Because we are available on, obviously, YouTube. If you're watching this, we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout. Probably be going up on Google Podcasts and Pandora here pretty soon. And if you saw in our last episode, we had our Parrot Life apparel on merch. So please do check that out. We'll put a link to that into the description, along with our page and probably our socials. So.
Yeah, you can follow us on the gram. You can kick it with us, talk to us.
The gram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, whatever. Reach out to us. We're pretty responsive. We love to hear from you all.
Yes.
That's really all.
That's all you got.
That's all I got at this point. I don't know. Is there a closing note that you want to add?
No, that's all.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks again for viewing, and you guys have a good day.
Bye, guys.